Considering where things stood this time last year, the future's looking bright, and the current status not too bad with Boston College football. We bring in Dan Rubin from BCEagles.com. Dan, it's been a while. How you been?
Hey, it's been a crazy season. I think the time slips away very nicely when you're going crazy and the time goes, and then at the end of the season you try to take that one day off, and all of a sudden you just wake up and the holidays are over. It just goes to show you how fast football season really does fly.
Well, it's the shortest season, unfortunately, college football. So we have a lot of time to talk about next season. We've got like 8 months. But the lasting image, the lasting impression I have of this BC football team from 2016 was just a defensive line just wreaking complete havoc. So I watched the Quick Lane Bowl start to finish, every play. And I know it was 36-30, so on the surface, a shootout. And yeah, Maryland hit for like 3 big runs from Ty Johnson. They hit those 2 deep passes when the game was seemingly out of hand to get back in the game. But besides that, the defensive front for Boston College, I can only recollect a few times seeing a defensive line dominate a like-seeded team, so a team on the same level from a similar conference, just batted balls constantly, just wreaking havoc in the backfield, forcing that fumble on the exchange in the end zone for the touchdown, tipping a ball in the air that gets picked off, the Harold Landry interception on just a tremendously athletic play, just dominating that game from that standpoint.
Yeah, it was fun to watch, wasn't it? That was for all 4 hours or so of the game. Didn't it feel like that game just took forever? It was one of those.
They all do in the postseason, Dan.
Yeah, it was awesome. 4 hours of football and to wind things up. But you're right, that defensive line had themselves a great game. I think they had something like 6 to 8. I think it was 8 sacks. Harold Landry set a program record, 15 sacks. National leader. I think it was a program record at least. But is now going to be a guy who's coming back to, which is even better for next year. But we'll get into that in a little bit. That line during that game was just insane. They anything they could have done, they did do. And you're right. Maryland did hit for big plays and did hit for explosives and did hit for big spots. But when the chips were on the line, everybody had everything in the table, and you needed something to pop up with your card. It's the defensive line that makes it happen. I think it was something like a 14-play exchange that happened deep in Boston College territory, and it ends with a Maryland field goal, which winds up being the difference in the game. So when you're looking at a defense and you're looking at a defensive line like seeded teams, we could get into the conversation about the number of bowl games and all this and that, but the fact remains you had a 6-6 team from the ACC, a 6-6 team from the Big Ten, teams with extremely similar resumes, and the difference at that level of the game was Boston College's defensive line.
So I know Harold Landry's gone, a number of other key contributors on defense. So when you look at what was accomplished, especially late in the season to get to postseason play versus what's going to be worked on and developed over the next 8 months, your thoughts about how this transition works into 2017 and what we can expect?
Well, Harold Landry's actually coming back next year. He decided decided that he was going to there was a big conversation about if he was going to forego that last year or come back. And he actually announced, it was very, very recent, that he was coming back for his senior year. He thinks he can be a first-round pick next year. I think the projections most recently had him in the 2nd to 3rd round. So if he comes back, your line is intact. I mean, your line from this year, the only guy that you're losing is this guy, Truman Goodapple, whose nickname is War Daddy. I mean, you're missing. That's the one guy who you're losing, but you're coming back with a guy, Noah Merritt, who played fantastic in the bowl game. You've got Landry. You're losing a couple of pieces in the front 7 in terms of linebackers, but those are easily going to be overlooked. And, you churn in a couple of other linebackers, guys who were recruited to replace the guys who are leaving. And that front 7, that especially the defensive line, should be the same next year as it was this year. These are exciting times, especially for that reason. Defensive coordinator Jim Reed, the continuity from Don Brown, coming in and employing the same style into next year, getting another year with Jim Reed. Maybe he puts a little of his own intricacies in. It's exciting, and it's definitely going to be a great year for them.
Any players on the current roster that maybe we didn't get a ton of opportunity to see, or maybe they were on the field but just not star players, complete impact players, but you're looking to take that extra step and become meaningful in their impact this fall.
Noah Merritt's going to be one. He's going to be on the defensive line. I love him. He's got a lot of juju on that line where he can really get into the offensive linemen, stand them up, drive them back. A lot of fun to watch. The guy who I'm really excited is this guy, Ethan Tucky, who's a linebacker. Ethan Tucky was a redshirting this past year, did not play. He was a 4-star recruit who committed to Boston College and then had that last star chopped off. Wound up as a 3-star guy on National Signing Day. So depending on which recruiting bureau you look at, he's the kind of guy who can come in with those attributes, who can really be a difference maker. I'm really excited for him stepping up, maybe getting a little extra snaps, maybe getting actually some snaps in game, getting fired up, getting into that line. It's going to be a competition either way to see who steps into the linebacker role, with Matt Milano leaving, with losing guys like Milano. But again, you're bringing back the core intact on that defensive line. And, those guys, when you get another year out of guys like that, you get another year out of guys like Landry, Merritt stepping in, other guys who played phenomenal throughout the year. Although there were times, you lose all those games 42-0 or 56-10, or there are times that the defensive line did not look good, but the defense as a whole didn't look good either. But it is still very exciting.
All right, Dan Rubin, one of the originals here on Mark Rogers TV, joining us to talk BC from BCEagles.com.